Good morning.
Thank you for joining Kerouac's Cruising. This is James and Kara, and we have a special guest today, an author of a book, The Word of Dog. That book was super inspiring to me.
Mark, did you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. My name is Mark Rowlands. I'm professor and chair of the philosophy department at the University of Miami.
Hi friends, this is James and Kara, and we are Kerouac's Cruising.
We are taking you on a journey, traveling the country with our dogs and finding remote places where the dog
And us
can roam free and play while we discuss life's growths, beauty, and some struggles along the way.
We recommend pairing our episodes with our blog at kerouacscruising.com, where we organize accurate information in an easy-to-follow format, removing all of the conversational goodies.
The link for this episode's blog post is in the show notes.
We encourage you to join the conversation by commenting where you listen, engaging with us on Facebook or Instagram at Kerouac's Cruising, or email us at join@kerouacscruising.com.
In the meantime, thanks for tuning in. Sit back and enjoy the
Written
journey.
over 20 books, including an international bestseller, much of them including philosophies essentially around dogs. So what inspired you to write The Word of Dog, and what makes it different from your other books?
Well, I suppose I've spent most of my life with dogs, from the time I was about 3 years old. There was a few dogless years in my 20s, but since then it's been pretty much dogs the whole time. I think it's impossible to spend that much time around a creature like a dog and not sort of pick up a thing or two eventually. Sometimes it takes me a bit longer than it should, but I get there in the end. So the immediate sort of reason for writing this book, the impetus, was watching my dog Shadow. He's a German Shepherd. He's a working line East German Shepherd. Well, every morning we walk along the canal that runs behind the house. And in the morning, lined up along the canal at sort of, fairly regular intervals will be iguanas, scores and scores of iguanas. And I let him off the leash and he tears off up the bank, and these iguanas peel off into the water, they swim over to the other side, and then they stay over there for the rest of the day. But come the next morning, because the iguanas apparently forget things at night, come the next morning, they will be back again, and Shadow begins his task all over again. So this eventually, after years of doing this, right, it eventually dawned on me, this is a bit like Sisyphus, right?
Yeah.
Where Sisyphus was the figure in Greek mythology, a mortal who offended the gods. The gods punished him by making him roll a rock up a hill for all eternity. When he gets to the top, the rock slips out of his grasp and it rolls back down to the bottom, where he has to start all over again. So if you replace the rock with iguanas, then you replace Sisyphus with Shadow, then you've pretty much got the same kind of story, right?
So it just kind of, watching Shadow kind of gave you a different perspective, essentially, on...
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we have 3 dogs, and our whole relationship of 15 years, we've had a chocolate lab, and watching her is reminding me when I read the book of Shadow, because it's the same thing. When every day we'd bring her for a walk, she would go jump up and down and go crazy. Every single day acts the same way. And my question to you, and I read the book and I can go first, what do you think people get out of the book when they read it? Because I got so much out of the book. It was inspiring in a lot of ways for our journey. So since the pandemic, to give you a little background, we've been trying to get out of the corporate world rather on job performance and trying to live authentic, meaningful, joyful life. Because in the past, our whole life was based on working
performance.
Performance, working 50, 60 hours a week. You have 2 days off. One day's doing chores. The other day, if you're lucky, you go out and explore or do something fun. We've been reading some books since 2020, but this book really grabbed me right at the beginning when you talked about reflection and how us humans live 2 lives, and a dog really just lives one wonderful, joyful life. And my whole life I fought with myself, my 2 different perspectives of myself. Trying to get out of that is really... It's incredibly hard to not put reflection on yourself and to live that life with no reflection. And my question is, do do you live that life not reflecting on yourself or trying not to reflect too much on the past? And it really, and there was some great examples. I got hurt really bad in a dirt bike accident, right? And every time I rode a dirt bike since, I'm always reflecting on what happened in the past. And you were talking about, sports players, they get hurt and then they have to perform that same thing, but they reflect, so it's very difficult to be able to perform that same way.
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of what I got out of the book and more, but I was wondering what the readers were, what are you trying to get the readers to get out of that book?
Yeah, reflection's at the heart of everything, I think. And reflection is the ability to think about yourself, about what you're doing, why you're doing it, think about your life as a whole and things like that. And it's been great for us. Reflection is what's enabled us to do many of the things that humans do, dominate the planet and all that stuff. Reflection is sort of, right at the heart of that. I think one of the things that I like to communicate is that existence is always a kind of a game of swings and roundabouts, right? Where when you gain something, as you do from reflection, you also lose certain things. And there's something you mentioned when you were talking about your work, the life before this, when you were working 60 hours a week and so on. I suppose there's another figure from Greek mythology who I think is a good allegory for that, and that's not Sisyphus but Tantalus, who also offended the gods. They made him stand in a pool of water up to his neck beneath a tree that had fruit on it, and whenever he reached for the fruit, the branches would pull away. Whenever he stooped to drink, the water would recede away from him. So everything of value in Tantalus's life is just out of reach. Okay, so think about the logic of work, what work is in its essence, right? Work is when you do something in order to get something else, Most obviously you work to get paid, right? So the pay is the external reward of the activity. If you live a life totally dominated by work, then you're basically like Tantalus. So things are always just out of reach, always doing something to get something else, Dogs don't do that. When dogs are so happy, it's because they're doing things that at that precise moment in time, there's nothing in the world they'd rather be doing. When Shadow's chasing his iguanas, that's it. He's completely on board. He's all in. There's nothing in the world he'd sort of rather be doing. And so there's a kind of joy that goes with doing something for its own sake that's lost when you're always doing something for the sake of something else. Yeah. So I mean that's one sort of strand, and I think a kind of consequence of that is that dogs are much better than us at what I call taking or valuing the marginally positive, right? So on any given day, I'll go and pick up my son from school not too long from now. So Shadow's not around, so I can say these words. But whenever we go, I say, "Do you want to come with?" And then he just sort of explodes into a paroxysm of delight, jumping on something, trying to leash himself and so on and so on. And he's a smart dog. He's done this for years. He knows what's going to happen. Nothing much, right? We're going to get in the car. We're going to drive across town. We're going to drive back in the house. That's it.
And all day long, he's been waiting for that moment.
Oh yeah. I got to watch out when I say, "Do you want to come with?" Because he'll burst into the door, But it's so. What's the operating idea? Well, the operating idea is that this is slightly better than staying in the house. I know I'm not going to a dog park where I can chase female dogs or anything like that. I'm just going to go in the car. I'll see a bit of Miami. I'll come back. That's marginally better than staying in the house. But this delight in the marginally positive, I think, is something we can learn, because much of life is just marginally positive.
Yeah.
It's true. So true.
I definitely, between reading your book and, in turn, watching our dogs and thinking about our dogs' lives in more of the terms that you really eloquently dress it up. I mean, you go really deep into philosophy, and from ancient Greece all the way up until, the more modern philosophers, you dig really deep into their viewpoints and their opinions and explain it in such a way with such great
humor, for one.
Yeah, humor, yeah. And examples, essentially.
Oh, great examples.
To make it tangible, we've never got taken a college course on philosophy, so we were very basic in our understanding. I did like a Cliff Notes on, world philosophy really quick, just so I had a little bit of background. But the way you explain everything was just beautiful and made it so tangible and easy to understand, very clear. And
Oh, great.
You did a great job. And then
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate you telling me.
of course. And then looking back, and reflecting on our dog's experiences in day-to-day life as we're reading through this book, it's amazing to look at that perspective. And I find myself trying to put myself in my dog's shoes, doing exactly like you said, getting excited about the just marginally better than your basic normal, being more present in the moment. Do you referred to yourself in the book as a life planner? Do you find yourself allowing yourself to be more inspired by Shadow's actions and
living in the moment?
Live more in the moment?
Yeah, I think I think especially once you get to a certain age, and I'm there, right? This is a good idea. So I'll give you another example of the marginally positive, which is it's not as happy with the first one, but I think it's just important. So last April, Shadow and I were out running. We were a few miles away from home. He gave out this loud shriek and dropped to the ground. Right? His back legs were completely paralyzed. The vet thinks it was a spinal embolism, a stroke, where a bit of cartilage from his spine had worked its way into the blood supply and cut off the blood supply to his spine. So for about 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes, I'm not quite sure how long, but somewhere in that vicinity, he was paralyzed in his back legs. There's one thing he did when this happened. He's much better now. I just thought I know. Well, one thing that I think will always stick with me when this happened, he'd fallen in the sun, right? And the sun is not a good place to be if you're a dog in Miami.
Yeah, black dog.
Yeah, front legs. He wouldn't let me help him because I think he's very frightened here. But he used his front legs to drag himself about 20 feet into the shade. And so, what's the operating sort of idea? Well, it's that this is awful. Whatever's happening now is awful, right? But at least in this moment, I'm slightly better off than I was the one before. And so you stop thinking about the long term. Well, he wasn't ever thinking about the long term, but applying to humans, focus less on the long term, concentrate on the short term, and making each moment just a little bit better than the one that went before.
Absolutely. We love that.
We do like that.
Hey friends, I am taking a moment to interrupt your regularly scheduled program to ask you to do us a huge favor. So if you could take a moment, just stop whatever you're doing and give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow, a subscribe, whatever the platform is that you are listening or watching us on. You could do us a favor and give us some kudos on that platform. That tells the algorithm that we're pretty cool, and other people who like the same sort of stuff that you do, it's going to show our information to those people. So that's a huge way to help support us. So immense gratitude. If you could please do that. Many, many thank yous. We love you so much. If you want to support us more directly, you can go to coffee.com. So that's going to be ko.fi.com/Kerouac Cruising. And you can give us a tip. If you like what you're hearing here, if we're giving you some great information, if you find it useful and entertaining or whatever it is for you that it's adding value to your life, you want to give us a little tip, we would absolutely love that. All of that money obviously goes to funding our future adventures. If you'd rather have something tangible for that money, you can go to our on-demand shop. I'll have the links in the show description, show notes, where you can purchase a little something, one of these super cool t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever it is, water bottles. We've got all kinds of cool jazz there. If there's something that you are interested in seeing that we don't have in that store, throw it at me. I'm happy to kind of accommodate what's going to float your boat. If you think it's going to be cool and fun, other people probably like it too. Otherwise, we love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support and your listenings, your watching, your followings, your engagement. We love you so much. You guys make this worth doing. So thank you so much. Love you.
You mentioned in The Word of Dog that you've traveled a lot. You at one point had 3 dogs, 3 much larger dogs than what we do. And that's kind of what we do. We travel with our 3 dogs trying to find places anywhere that they can run and play and just be totally free. So what are some of the tips and tricks? It sounds like you did a lot of flying across the ocean, so even more complicated traveling. So what are the tips and tricks you've learned from your experiences trying to do that over the years?
Don't panic, I suppose, is the first one. The first time we took our dog to France, I remember we flew over from Miami to Paris and rented a car because we were going to go drive down to the south of France and stay down there for the summer. Right? So we get there, and his crate, even though we'd taken his dog crate apart, it still wouldn't fit in the car.
Was this Hugo?
This was Hugo, yes, that's right, yeah. It wouldn't fit in the back of the car. Even we got the biggest car we could possibly rent, it still wouldn't fit, So But luckily, we found a place called Bagage de Monde, which is a sort of left luggage place where you can live. We just sort of left it there. So, but that took, that was a bit worrying. What am I going to do with this crate now, kind of thing. I've traveled with dogs across the Atlantic quite a bit, and I won't go on too much because you won't get me to stop if I. Dog-friendly hotels are much easier to find over there as well.
Oh, are they?
Oh, because here it's hard because we travel with 3 dogs and we had to stay in hotels just in a quick trip, and try to find a hotel that will accept 3 large dogs is almost impossible. So we just say we have 2 large dogs and we go.
Cross our fingers.
I had a friend once who had 3 large dogs, and he was trying to stay in a hotel. This was also in France, but they wouldn't allow more than 2. So what he had to do was he put his 100-pound Labrador in a hold-all and carried him in as if it was a bag. It works.
I was like, the only other thing you're doing is have to rent 2 rooms or something like that.
Yeah. No, we've been there, done that. That's right.
Yeah, I'm glad to know that we're not the only one who does crazy, shady things to get our dogs into a hotel room.
But they're like our kids.
Yeah, they go everywhere with us.
No, I was the same. I mean, unfortunately, Shadow isn't really a suitable candidate for these sorts of trips, but we used to. So we haven't been on one for about 10 years now. But
how old's Shadow now?
Shadow is 8.
8. Okay.
Because our chocolate lab, she's about 90 pounds and she's 12, and we never know. When you talked about Hugo on Christmas or around Christmas, we never know our dog because she's getting to that age that she.
Some days are great, and some days is a big question mark.
But she's still. We go for a 3-mile walk every day. She is the first one up and excited to go for that walk.
You said the W word, and nobody freaked out.
So it is. Dogs are amazing creatures, and they definitely. I love having them around.
No, I agree completely. Obviously.
Oh yeah. So one of the other things, just reading the book, and I think it was a theorist, Wolf. I think the last name was Wolf, and she was talking about how things like watching the train go by is a meaningless way of life. I guess it was. That is meaningless activity. Well, some people that I know that concentrating on their dreams like that, watching the train go by and writing down the things, they stick with it for years and years, even though other people might think it was meaningless. It has become a meaningful part of their life, and they've found success in it. So I definitely agreed with you on that part of it, where she was taking, or in her perspective, meaningless things were really, in some people's mind, are meaningful, because I'm trying to live a meaningful life for me, not for anybody else.
No, that's right. I think Susan Wolf's work is really good, but I disagree with her, as you see. So I think professional academics should be very careful in criticizing the way other people choose to live their lives, and decrying some activities as meaningless or valueless. I don't think is very helpful or very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my point. I totally agreed with you on that, because you just don't know. Some people's meaningless could be other people's meaningful. So it's really a perspective that I definitely agreed with.
Well, Susan Wolf says, there is such a thing as she thinks there must be such a thing as objective value. Mm-hmm. So certain activities have objective value and others don't.
Yeah.
And what you do can be meaningful only if it has objective value.
A value,
Yeah, and she accepts this. We don't really have any clear idea of what we mean by objective value, what sort of thing it is, or where it comes from.
Absolutely. Now, with that, now that we've kind of gone in that direction, so how has this current idea that you're having with the lack of reflectivism, and obviously we can't get away from it completely, but spending more time in the moment and appreciating life's joys, how is that changing your teaching?
Well, one of the penalties of being chair of the department is I really don't do very much teaching at all.
Okay.
Oh, got it.
My time pushing paper, signing things, pushing.
Fair. You got to the cushy part.
I haven't had an opportunity to inflict this stuff on my students yet. I'm sure that'll come in a year or two, but not yet.
I love it.
So you're the director of philosophy in the university?
Yeah, chair of the philosophy department, yeah.
Okay, very good. Do you have kids that read your books that come and ask you questions about your book?
Do they read my books? Not if they can possibly avoid it.
They're missing out because it's really entertaining, and I feel like you really, again, explain everything in a way that those of us who are not experienced in philosophy, I mean, it's amazing when you look at it. It's really ingrained in society, all the way from the Greek philosophers. We just automatically, I guess, we're just taught it, and so it's been accepted.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think everyone's a philosopher, whether they've picked up a book of philosophy or not, because we all kind of make philosophical assumptions about pretty much everything, as life goes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
My son found himself at my wife's parents' house in Ireland a few months ago. And for some reason, he had absolutely nothing to do, and there was a copy of one of my books. So he read a chapter, So what do you think? All right. All right. That's probably the best I can hope for.
Maybe as he gets older, he'll wish he'd have read it younger, because it would have totally opened up more value in life. I think in our younger years, we spend too much time just going for it and not enough time living it.
Well, I would tell you in that same aspect, I'm a second cousin of Jack Kerouac, and growing up in our family, Jack Kerouac was a horrible person, just an alcoholic, don't read his books and blah, blah, blah. Now that I've gotten older, some of his books are really inspiring also. Mm-hmm. And I wish I would have read more when I was younger, and now that I'm getting older, I appreciate reading so much more, and I wish I would have embraced that younger.
That's absolutely fascinating. I mean, as a matter of fact, it was on the road. That's the reason I ended up doing philosophy.
No way.
Yeah, because he mentions Nietzsche in there, and at least I hope he does. Otherwise, my story. I'm pretty sure he did, right?
Yeah,
so,
that was one of the things I was curious about. What made you switch from an engineering to philosophy? I'd read a little bit on Wikipedia, and it said that you would switch your major from engineering to philosophy, and I thought that was a really interesting, huge change.
Yeah, well, it's your second cousin's fault,
That's amazing.
So having read On the Road, I then went and started reading Nietzsche, and I didn't understand any of it at all. But instead of going to my engineering classes that I was supposed to be going to in my first year at university, I stayed in my room and read Nietzsche and other philosophers, and eventually transferred to philosophy. Yeah.
That's
so what a small world.
Yeah.
Now you embraced it, obviously, but are you happy living your life as an author and a philosopher and an educator versus an engineer where you're kind of just building and creating? Are you happy with your decision?
Yeah, no, I think things largely by accident, I have to admit, right? But things have worked out so well, I couldn't possibly have
you made that point in your book that most of the most beautiful experience in life came from things you didn't plan.
Yeah. So I was reading philosophy, but then I bumped into someone who did philosophy, and then I went straight down to the philosophy department and talked my way in. So
you went down the philosophy rabbit hole.
I did. I went down the rabbit hole. Yeah. No, I'm pretty confident in saying that most of the good things, the really good things that have happened in my life, happened through accident. But you have to be open to them to recognize them when they come along.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We totally believe that.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to accept.
You do, yeah.
You do. Totally agree with that. Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. Is there anything you would like to make sure gets out into the world?
No. Let's just let it all happen by accident.
I love it.
We're trying to live life that way. We're letting things happen by accident.
Okay.
Really, and your interview was by accident. I mean, it was great for us to get it. And reading the book was totally inspiring, and I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to read the book and to interview
have this conversation.
Because
it's been a real pleasure. It's great to meet you both.
So it's awesome. And Mark Rowlands, he is a philosopher, an educator,
and The Word of Dog.
And The Word of Dog is a book that everybody should read. Absolutely. If you're trying to change your life. Or have a different perspective in life. Yep. I guess, because we're all trying to work in our own way to change, for better. That's what I think. Always trying to learn and gain knowledge. So I gained a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me on. I had a great time.
Thank you,
Very
Mark.
good. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Same to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Kerouac's Cruising.
We're thrilled to have you with us.
We had a blast recording this episode and hope you enjoyed our adventures as much as we enjoyed sharing them.
For more amazing pictures and stories, visit our website and blog at kerouacscruising.com.
And join the conversation on Facebook at Kerouac's Cruising or email us at join@kerouacscruising.com.
We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review.
Your support helps us reach more listeners and allows us to continue sharing our travel experiences with you.
It's a generous favor that means the world to us.
Thank you so much for listening to Kerouac's Cruising.
Until next time, happy travels.